Eskom will continue with the implementation of load shedding Stage 6. That's until 5 a.m. on Monday. Stage 6 was implemented on Friday and attributed to an increased demand and the loss of 5 generating units. The Minister of Electricity said on Friday that the ongoing heat wave across parts of the country was another contributing factor. Let's get some analysis from energy analyst Chris Yelland now to find out more. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we heard some of the reasons being spelled out by Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa as to why we're experiencing so much load shedding. Stage 6 just, essentially seemingly happening overnight. And emergency reserves to keep load shedding at bay, have been used at this stage, which is what we heard. What have you made of what has been said? I mean, we saw the minister as well as an Eskom executive speaking about how we're landing at stage 6 load shedding.
There were 3 main reasons given for this increased levels of load shedding. The first is as a result of the hot weather. There has been a spike in electricity demand, according to the Minister and Mr. Becky Khumalo, of about 1,500 megawatts, which they kind of put down to the increased use of air conditioning at this time. So that worsens it on the demand side. On the supply side, the hot weather does impact the output of some of Eskom's largest coal-fired power stations, and in particular, Majuba Power Station, Matimba, Medupi, and Kusile, because these are all what is known as dry air-cooled power stations. And in the hot weather, the air is hotter, and therefore the cooling is not as good. And this impacts on the output of the generators. They have to reduce output in order to avoid overheating. In technical terms, it's known as increased partial load losses. And this is also having a significant impact, perhaps up to one stage of load shedding. And of course, there is the perennial problem of unplanned breakdowns, and also a problem after taking units down for repairs for whatever reason, including maintenance. They sometimes don't come back on again when they should come back on again because of unexpected problems that they experience. So a combination of all of these factors leads to just more of the same: unpredictable, unreliable, intermittent coal-fired power.
And another reason, Eskom's diesel problem also came to the forefront. The power utility's excessive use of its open cycle gas turbines, which have been burning diesel at unsustainable levels. And, of course, that being put out as a reason why we also, why the situation has exacerbated.
Yeah, so certainly this last week we've had stage 4 load shedding, which was increased to stage 6. And they say that this increase to stage 6 was also to give it some space to replenish their emergency reserves, which comprise the diesel in the open cycle gas turbines, as well as the water in the top dams of the pump storage schemes. So when these open cycle gas turbines are pushed hard and running at a typical load factor now of about 40%, which is incredibly high, they consume vast amounts of diesel. The diesel tanks run out, and they need some time to refill the diesel storage tanks to give the open cycle gas turbines more fuel. And so they're switching off these open cycle gas turbines in order to replenish the diesel, and this just adds to the problem.
So when it comes to, what the Minister of Electricity had to say and the latest data on Eskom's plant performance, it shows that unplanned outages have, in fact, increased over the last few weeks. Is it, in addition to what we've been told, how has it been tracked up until this point where we find ourselves with the back-to-back load shedding?
Yeah, look, unplanned outages vary from day to day and week to week and month to month. So you can have a good day, good bad day, good week, good month, bad month. We've had a sort of a worst case of about 17,000 megawatts of unplanned outages. It then dropped down to about 14,000, a couple of good weeks. But it's increased now to approximately 16,000, 15,500 to 16,000. And as I say, it's up and down. It's unplanned. It's unpredictable. It's intermittent. It's really a sign of the state of the coal-fired fleet, which is not good. And try as Eskom might to do additional maintenance. The problem is we don't have any spare generation capacity. So when you shut down a unit to try and do more maintenance, it means you have increased load shedding because you don't have a spare generator to operate while the other generator is being maintained. So you're in a kind of situation where the more you try to fix the problem, the more load shedding you have, certainly in the next couple of years.
Would you now say that a government's energy action plan to stave off the worst of load shedding is failing?
Well, it is at the moment, and I think the Minister of Electricity is showing his frustration during his media briefings, and we're due to have another media briefing today. So one thing that's good about the Minister is that he communicates. Sometimes the communication is not as clear as it should be, but be that as it may, at least he does have these regular briefings. But the bottom line is he is frustrated that it's not achieving the direction that he wanted it to achieve. That's not to say that things are going to continue bad. We hope that things will improve. But I think we've got to be realistic that this was a long time coming in the making, and it's going to take a lot of hard work and time and effort and money to fix. The one thing I am concerned about is that people on the ground, me included, here in Craig Hall, Johannesburg, I'm experiencing 12 and a half hours of load shedding today.
Yeah.
That is 10 hours of 2-hour stretches of load shedding, plus the extra half hour per incident of load shedding. You add it up, it's 12 and a half hours. That is more than half the day. And if you look at the NRS specification, NRS 048, that is consistent with stage 8 load shedding and not stage 6 load shedding that we can. And this is a problem that's been experienced throughout the country, that the level of load shedding of 10 hours a day, 10 to 12 hours a day that we are all experiencing is consistent with stage 8 load shedding. So there is a lot of cynicism and belief that we're not being told the full picture.
Yeah, and that is indeed extremely concerning, especially looking at the impact on people's appliances and their lives and the state of the economy and what this means for business. And as we, of course, ease down the year, what we're likely to come back to as the year starts again in January.
Yeah, and this is going to have political consequences, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, we have an election approaching, and the government has been doing everything it can, driven by the urgency of the election, to try and resolve this problem. But it's not getting a grip on it yet. And I do believe that this is a major election issue, and it's going to have an impact in the forthcoming elections.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, energy analyst Chris Yelland, giving us a sense of what's at stake when it comes to stage 6 load shedding, and of course an element of even greater transparency needed as to what stage we're actually dealing and grappling with in the country.